Hey everybody, it's Shelly James and welcome to Shelly Loves to Paint. Here is another lesson for our Christmas card series. Today we are going to be creating this beautiful candle surrounded by holly leaves. We're going to be adding some berries in there and some pretty gold filigree around it just to kind of bring it into the holiday season. So I remember always the patterns, if I'm providing them, are the link to the pattern is going to be in the comment section at the very top, pinned to the very top. And you can click that link and download. This is a pattern for a 5x7 greeting card. And we're going to be painting this card along with an accompanying envelope. All right. And you can get these cards any craft store in the paper crafting section or on Amazon or your favorite retailer for paper supplies. Okay, this isn't an anything special type card stock or anything. It's just a 5x7. This particular one I got from Michael's. It's in the Recollections series in the paper crafting section. Okay. All right, so as we're painting the candle, we're going to be adding a little embellishment to our envelope just to kind of spruce it up a little bit for the season, keeping in mind that we're going to pretty much stay in this lower left corner. You can do lower left corner, lower right corner, upper I would stay away from because you're putting addresses and stamps in there, so just keep that in mind. And then you want to stay out of the center where you're putting your address. Okay, so I'm just going to set that up here out of the way for now while we get started on the background of our greeting card. Okay, so first thing I want to do is let's go through our colors. These are Plaid, FolkArt multi-surface, and matte acrylic paints. All right, so multi-surface has a satin finish. The matte acrylic, of course, has a matte finish, a little bit duller look to it. And then we're going to be adding some multi-surface metallic to it when we get to that point. I didn't put that out on here because it kind of runs, it's a little thinner than most other colors. So the colors I'm using today: linen, wicker white, yellow ochre, daffodil yellow, fire coral, apple red, classic green, indigo blue, or indigo night, excuse me. So that's just a slightly different variation in a dark blue. I'm going to be blending that with our classic green to get our dark tones in our leaves, our holly leaves. And then also we have some asphaltum, which is the matte acrylic, floating medium right here. Okay, so I'm going to start with a 16 flat. I'm going to get that damp, lay it on paper towel, and we're going to come and pick up our background color. So I'm going to, in this card, I'm going to cover the entire surface of the card with a background color. Okay, so that color is going to start out with linen. All right, so we're going to start picking up a lot of linen and some floating medium just to help it move a little bit. And we're going to come right around our card, or our, excuse me, right around our candle. All right, around our leaves. Just kind of slip slapping that into the background. Medium and linen together. Okay. There we go. Just making sure I get past all the edges of my elements. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow ochre. All right, and we're going to start to slip slap that with the linen around this outside edge. And I'm taking the whole flat of the brush with that motion so that I bring my two colors together, slightly blending them so it softens the edge. Can you see that? All right, now I'm going to come closer now that you can see the palette, and we can get a little bit close up on the candle. There we go. So continuing to pick up yellow ochre and the linen and working around. This is going to make your card curl just slightly because you're covering the entire surface with wet paint. But it will dry fairly quickly, and because it's cardstock, it shouldn't curl too badly. I'm seeing it lift just a little bit, but not too bad. Okay, so now having all of that on there, I'm just going to get a touch of white here and there on the outside edges over top of that yellow ochre. Just little bits of it. Just barely picking that up. All right, wipe off that brush, and I'm going to come back to just a little bit of linen right in this area here because it didn't quite come together the way I wanted it to. So this will fix that very easily. Okay. All right, so there's our pretty background. I'm going to go ahead and clean that brush, and we can start working on our various elements of the candle. So 3/4 inch flat, get that damp, and we're going to pick up all yellow ochre, and then I'm going to side load some white on 1/3, blending that in really well with that yellow ochre. Let's come out here so we have a little more room. All right, lots of paint on the brush. And with the light color to the right edge, right? We're going to come along the back and down that edge. And then I'm just going to go the opposite direction. Again, keeping the, let's get a little bit of medium in there because it's not moving great. Keeping the dark edge to the left. And the light edge to the right. And I don't have to worry about the bottom because we're going to put leaves there. So I'm just going to make sure I go right over the edges of those leaves. I'm going to get a little more white. And we're going to, with it to the left now, let's come around this back edge on the top of the candle, flip it over. So I'm keeping the dark in the center for the top of the candle. See there? And give it just a little bit of a wave so it looks a little like the wax is dripping. Not much. This is a freshly lit candle, okay? There. Little movement in there as the wax is starting to melt. And maybe take just a touch of that white down the right-hand side. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to, let's get a 2 script liner. And we'll get that wet and get some asphaltum. All right, and we're going to come right in here for our wick and pull that down into the center of the candle. You can do just a little U shape here in the bottom to set it. All right, and then get a little more water, get this a little inkier. And we're going to come, no, you know what, let's not do that. All right, so that has to dry, and then we can do the flame. And while we're waiting on that, I'm going to get with that same 2 script liner, a little bit of white with the yellow ochre, mostly white. And we're just going to do a little bit of wax running down. So in this case, it's just kind of started to run, but there's no drip tips, right? So no rounded drop forming is. Just a little character too. But make sure it's mixed with that yellow ochre so that it's not 100% white. There we go. All right. Just a few little edges starting to form, right? Okay. All right, so I'm going to put out my metallic gold. This is 14 karat gold, metallic, multi-surface. I'm going to put it right here next to my asphaltum. Okay. And I'm going to get two flat, very small flat brush. And we're going to load that with asphaltum. And then I'm going to come over here and side stroke some of this gold. Right? So you've seen these candles before. They were kind of popular. I don't know, when I was growing up at least, where they had kind of gold filigree all around the candle base. So what we're going to do with that is we're just going to do pretty little leaves with the gold and asphaltum. Need more gold. And you can do a little stem. Do some scrolls. Keep picking up that asphaltum as you're doing this because you want some dark in there to help the gold show up. Okay, so just a few little designs on here. There, I think that's good. You don't want to overdo it. All right, and then I'm going to just go ahead and pick up a bunch of this gold and right through here at the base with the asphaltum is still in the brush, okay? Right here at the base, we're going to go, let's get a little more asphaltum down here. Just kind of wrap this candle in a gold bottom, okay? All right. Clean that brush. And we're going to come get that 2 script liner again. Let's get some inky asphaltum on that. And we can come from around, behind, here, there. We'll come bring this around this way, get some gold, and go over that. Asphaltum. Let's see. So lots of gold. Okay, and then we can come back with that too, with the same colors again. I cleaned it between because the two will dry very fast. So you don't want to leave it sitting with wet paint in it for very long because it won't last long. So pretty little scrolly leaves. So you keep the asphaltum on one half and then side stroke the gold. Okay, and we'll just do a couple more. Okay, just a little pretty filigree around it with some gold. All right, now we're ready to do our leaves. So I'm going to come back to my 16 flat. And so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to come between or with both the green and the blue. So let's back up just a little bonk in my camera here. So I'm getting that Indigo Night and the Classic Green together. Work those together. And then Classic Green on the other side. So that's what I should have done. Sorry. All right, and then over here with the yellow ochre on one edge of the Classic Green. So Classic Green and yellow ochre, Classic Green and Indigo Night. That's the multi-load there, okay? A little bit of medium, I don't want much. I want that stronger blue. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to show you before we put it on the candle. Let's set that just aside for a second and get our envelope. All right, and we're going to do some holly leaves here in the corner. So I'm going to have them spray out like this. Okay, so you're starting on the chisel, you're going to press and stand to a point, and then come back and make a curve and stand to a point, and back and curve and stand to a point, and then stand to the chisel for the tip. Okay, I need just a little more medium. I want that yellow ochre worked in with that green, not on the edge. And maybe let's get just a touch of white. There we go. Let's try that one more time. We'll come back down here so you can see a little better. So push, push back, and stand. That's better. So these are a darker color for the season. Get some white. So I worked in white, yellow ochre, and Classic Green together on that outside edge, and then Classic Green and Indigo Night on the inside. All right, so we're going to come here, push, 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 and stand. Okay. Pull a stem with the chisel edge leading with the dark, then you're going to get a light color coming through. I'm not liking that yellow ochre in there, so I'm really just going to stick to the classic green with a little white worked into the edge, okay, on the one side, and then keeping the classic green and indigo night together on the dark edge. Right, we're going to come and do this one here. Push, push, and stand. Stem into that. And then we'll do a final one up here. It goes right over these. So when you go over something like that, you really want to get kind of a stronger light edge. So I'm going to side stroke a little of this white. And that'll help it stand out against the darker background of the other two leaves. And there we go. All right, so then we're ready to do the berries. We'll come back to this and add those in. All right, so let's come to our candle. We've got a good load on our brush now. Get a little more medium. So this is, just to reiterate, classic green on the whole brush, right? Indigo night worked into 1/2. And then we're side blending some white into that green to get a lighter green edge, okay? All right, so let's start from back here. We're going to do, there's one that's sticking out, hiding behind and pointing out here. So then we're just going to go to the points, and stand back up along the edge of that candle. And then we'll do the same thing on this side. Point, point, stand. Point, point, bringing that light edge around the outside edge of the leaf so that you keep the dark in the middle. And there's our pretty leaf. All right, and then we'll just start layering. So we've got one underneath here, so let's put that one in first. Point, point, point. Okay. All right, so we're getting a real pretty spray of these leaves. Their angles are kind of spreading out and up, so it's cupping the candle. And then these front ones are going to kind of angle slightly downward. There. And what really says and forces the eye to see the angle of the flow of a leaf is the direction of the stem. So if you give that stem that slight downward curve, that really orients the leaf more. Right, and then our final one here. Stand it up. There we go. Okay, now we're going to put berries and things inside there. But the other thing I wanted to do is just let me show you on top of all these leaves, you can do more, like right here, just like the hint of one coming over, right? Like, so it starts flat. It has to be flat for it to look like it's bent over. Here, there, and to the point. So see what I'm talking about? So then you come right from the bend part, you don't see the back side of it, and you just pull that little bit of stem into it, okay? All right, so now I want to add a little extra down below. So what I'm going to do with that is I've got a 5/8 inch feather brush or rake brush from the Signature collection of brushes by Donna Dewberry. And I'm going to get that damp, and then we're going to load some asphaltum. So it's damp asphaltum. And we're going to just, they're like little feathery strokes here. Need that little bit of water in there to help this move. Okay, a little bit there. All right, and then I'm going to wipe that off and come get my gold. Okay. And you can do a little bit of that over the top of those. And then I'll give them a little metallic reflection. You can't do it double loaded because the matte color will overtake the metallic and it won't show reflectively. You have to do it one on top of the other. There. Okay, so if you can see that, there we go. All right, now we'll add our berries. And you know what, before I leave that, let's come back to that for our envelope. Right, and maybe we'll pull just a few of those little wisps out. Yeah. Wipe off and get your gold. There. All right, now we can do our berries and our, oh, before I forget, we need to put the flame on our candle. All right, so with that, we're going to use a 6 flat. And let's first, we're going to get some yellow ochre on that 6. All right, and shove this back over here. So right here at the base of our candle, I want to come down with that yellow ochre and pull up that flame. All right, then I'm going to wipe off and come get this daffodil yellow. Load that on the brush, and we're going to side stroke some white. So daffodil on the 6 flat, side stroke white. Pardon me. And we're going to come to just this left side of the flame and pull up. And you can pull down just a little bit on this side, but it's mostly on the left. Maybe get a little of that yellow ochre back right here at the base. There. Okay. And then just to finish it, I'm going to get just little, I wiped off, and I'm just going to pick up white right here at the tip. There, pull that down a little. Now, if you need to bring that wick back in, you can take some of that paint right out, just so it shows up. Or if you have to restroke it, but you want it to look like it's inside the flame, right? So just be careful not to restroke it heavy on top. Okay, now we can do just a few little finishing touches on the top of that candle. I'm going to get a little bit of white. Come around this back edge here. Get some yellow ochre. Make that look a little flowy, like it's melted wax, right? Okay, so we're going to come to our dauber now. This is a 1/4 inch dauber. I'm going to load this with apple red, and then I'm going to come next to the fire coral and tap that into about 1/3 of the load on the sponge end of this dauber. And you might even come get just a little bit of white, no more than that. Okay. All right, so we can come here to base of our candle, push and twist. And then I might get a little bit of the green on the red side. Just for some shading. There. And come over here. Just that little bit of green on that red edge makes that a shade darker. Okay, I got a little too much because it's really showing green. I wanted a darker red, so you got to kind of tap it in together. There we go. You know what, guys? I'm going to get some berry wine because I'm really not happy with these berries. They're not the color I wanted them to be, so That's fine. I'm going to just share with you how you fix that, okay? So I just wiped off all the color off of this sponge dauber on a paper towel. And so I want these darker, more dramatic looking. So I'm loading berry wine and then apple red. So half and half with that. So no fire coral, no green. We're doing berry wine and apple red. And let's see what we get here. That's better. There. That's the color I was going for. You know, I had those in my head, and then I thought, no, I'm going to try these other colors and not add one more color to the palette, but sometimes you just have to. Okay, that's better, I think. Okay, then you can add some of that fire coral to the apple red on a few of these, and that'll lighten up instead of adding white. Right, so you can add it on just a couple. That looks much better. Okay, so there's our card, and then on our envelope, because we're just tucking them down here in the corner, you might even make it just a little bigger, so you just make a wider circle, right? You take the whole sponge and make a circle like that, there, and maybe get a little bit of that fire coral and tap it in. I like that. Okay. All right, so coming back to our card, then I just want to share one last thing with you can do, and that is some shading, right? So I'm going to come and get my 16 flat here, load that with medium, and we're going to side stroke some asphaltum. Let's bring it out here. It's asphaltum and those other matte colors skin over very quickly. So you have to kind of break through that skin and get the paint. And it makes side loading difficult. Okay. All right, so let's come down here at the base of our candle. And with that dark edge down, we're going to go right around everything. And you want to really wait till these berries are dry, especially if you're not real good at brush control, right? But just come around the base of the candle. Right? And maybe along the bottom 2/3 on the left-hand side, just to kind of set that left side in a darker light than the right side, right? And then you can take that same loaded brush with the asphaltum and get some classic green with it. Work it together. Get a little more medium. Right? And you can come between the leaves, underneath the berries. And use a smaller brush if it's easier, but don't go much smaller than a 12. It's tough to get a good shading with anything smaller than that. Okay. but you want to be on the flat of the brush and along the edge of what you're shading with the dark color. There. Okay, I don't think I want to do any more shading than that. That's really lifting up what I wanted it to. And you can do a little bit on the card if you want to as well. Just come around that edge of that leaf right there. And this one here. Okay. So there is our card, our pretty gold and yellow candle. A little bit curled on the paper, but not too bad. And then there's our envelope. Let's shift those over a little bit. Matching envelope. And you know what you could do is you could take the corner of the brush with the gold now, and you could go around some of the darker outside edges of your card and add a little bit of shine with the gold. Here and there. You could even put a little bit on the leaves. Like the candle is shining on those leaves a little bit. There. And then you can see the glare right there. All right, so let's take our script liner. We'll get some inky, if we can, Asphaltum. A little bit more water. You want enough water when you're getting inky to paint that it feels like it's moving like ink, but not running drippy. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and sign it. And I'm sure when you do yours that the person receiving this will know how much love and care you put into it and enjoy it and keep it. So I hope you'll paint this card with me and share it with someone you love. Thank you guys for watching again. Shelly Loves to Paint. We will be back again next week with another greeting card design. So I'll see you then. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, and God bless you all. Thank you. Bye-bye.